Chaos Reign presents Is Marriage Forever? With special guest Dr. Blaque. Broadcast May 15th, 2022. Enjoy.
views expressed on Talk Real Solutions, hosted by Tyrone Thompson at TalkRealSolutions.com, are the views of Tyrone Thompson and do not reflect the views of TalkRealSolutions.com, YouTube, or etc. The content here belongs to Talk Real Solutions and its many contributors. Views and opinions expressed by all contributors belong to them and not TalkRealSolutions.com or Tyrone Thompson, the host, or etc. All data and information provided on the site is for informational purposes only. Talk Real Solutions makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information on this site and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or delays in this information or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its display or use. All information is provided on an as-is basis.
In a world where there's crime, corruption, violence, murder, rape, theft, and all forms of atrocities that plague the world in which we live in today, what you're witnessing, we are living in a state of chaos. It'll take a more greater or extreme of chaos to restore the order in which we live in today.
Good evening. Good evening again, people. This is Chaos right here. And today's stream is another installment and a very important one that needs to be looked at and discussed. And, you know, I have my special guest to really go into details ahead of today's subject. But before we give the details and title for today, I'd like everybody to go to TalkRealSolutions.com, where you see the 3-point plan for Black empowerment, Black achievement. And also on the website, there are lists of Black established banks located here in the United States of America. I think there's like under 30, maybe. And also on the website, there is articles and news of current events that's going on here and probably outside America. So check the website for yourself, TalkRealSolutions.com. Also, follow Talk Real Solutions on Facebook. Same name, same picture, banner. And like the page. On the page, you will also be invited to the secret chat room where a lot of things go in the DM. A lot of crazy stuff, a lot of goofy stuff, a lot of fun stuff. But nonetheless, nothing is really fun unless you go down a DM person. So, you know, check us out on Facebook as well. And last but not least, you can also follow this stream on the YouTube page as well, Talk Solutions, same name, on YouTube as well. Some of the broadcasts that I present here will be also on there, and other shows that run on T.R.S. personally. So that's on the YouTube page as well, so check that out too. And I forgot one thing. How can I forget this? Also subscribe to the Chaos Rain channel as well. You know what to do. Hit that red button. Hit that top notification bell for uploads, live streams on the Chaos Rain channel. Also, make sure you leave a comment and all other things that you find interesting of the channel. I'll be looking forward to read it. And I think that's pretty much it. So, let's begin. What today's subject compose? As I'm scrolling around. There we go. Tonight's subject, Chaos Reign presents, Is Marriage Forever? With a question mark. With the one and only special guest, Dr. Blaque. Star 6, one if you could press it, Dr. Blaque. Oh, I see you right there. All right. As I welcome back to y'all, Dr. Blaque again. Good evening, Dr.
Thank
Blaque.
you, Chaos. Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone who's listening. Really appreciate the opportunity to have this very important conversation with you.
Mm-hmm. Now, as you know, Dr. Blaque, we have covered so much content in the past since I think end of 2020, since I first had you on. Am I right?
Yeah, 2020. Yeah, we
So
got
I think
together in
it was almost pushing almost 2 years. I got to check the date when we first did broadcasting, but it's almost there right now. And as you know, there were pretty much good traction from the first time I had you up here. So as we go further down with certain things that people are uncomfortable, the people might get different views about it. They might question it, or they might just don't have something to say and they just want to be sit back in the clouds just listening. Nonetheless, we had to talk about this and many more subjects to come because as people are not knowing, this is a business. And like any business, there's always one party, not just two, but any party could dissolve the contract anytime at any given notice. But nonetheless, I'm going to let you go. The floor will be yours, Dr. Blaque, in regards to the subject matter. The floor is yours.
But do you want to introduce your title and the whole nine so I can take it from there?
I did.
Oh, yeah, sure. So we're talking about today is marriage forever. I thought you might want to say a little bit more, but I'll take it from here. We'll bounce back off each other as always. So,
yeah, because I'm not a married man, so that's why I had to let the floor.
I appreciate that. So it's marriage forever, and I appreciate letting us have this conversation because I've been pondering this question for more than 20 years. Is marriage forever? I was born into a conservative Christian family, and they tell you in church that marriage is forever, that, you have Adam and Eve, and we all need to duplicate that and find our Eve, and the woman comes from Adam's rib, and we need to find a woman who will be like our body part, an extension of us, like one of our ribs, and be with her forever. And, Paul writes that, Jesus or God loves us like the church, and we should love our wife like God loves the church, And so we as men should be taking care of our wives and build a healthy family with our children and grandchildren and so on. So it gives us this impression. United States is the largest Christian nation in the world by population, even though many Christians in the United States are barely Christians. They barely know anything about Christianity, but it's more of a cultural thing. It's more of a, hey, let's call ourselves Christians because it's the nice thing to do. So we have a lot of influence from Christianity, and a lot of people will say Judeo-Christian this, Judeo-Christian that. Christianity is a big part of our culture, a big part of our history, and people want to mold their marriage structure from that Christian example. And then you think God is forever, we're going to go to heaven, so marriage could be forever. You get married to someone, and then you're going to stay with them for the rest of your life. That was the idea. And so when I was pondering this question, I thought, how true is that? How true is that? How likely is it that you find someone in your 20s and you could stay with them until you're in your 80s or 90s? Now, when this idea was created back in the days of the Jews 2,000 years ago, those people only lived until they were 30 or 40 at best. It was amazing if you made it to 40. So then you say, if I get married at 14 and I have my first child at 15, can I make it 15 more years? And that's life. And that was a good idea. Oh, okay, yeah, I made it 15 years. I passed away. I left my kids and my grandkids everything. And, hey, I could deal with a woman for 15 years. That's not hard. And then it's a chauvinistic society. The man pretty much decides everything, and the woman follows in his lead and does what he says. So those two things are super easy. 15 years, the men make the decision. You and I are men. We run the show. That's good to go. Some things have changed since then. In the year that I was born, 1981, according to Divorce in America, Citizen.com, it said in 1981 was the highest rate of divorces in the United States of America at 53%. In 2021, though, divorces have trickled down slightly to 45%. So half of the people in the United States get divorced, half.
Mm-hmm.
Half of the people get divorced. And even though they suggest here that it trickled down to 45%, I and my research suggests that that's just a bump in the road. It's a slight statistical alteration, but divorce is going to keep going up. I think the statistics show that divorce is going to keep going up. It's going to go back up to 51%. And the reason I say that is, according to the Census Bureau, in 2021, 34% of adults ages 15 and over had never been married, up 23% in 1950. So in 1950, over 50% of people over age 15 were married, and today only 34% of those people get married. The estimate median age of a married person for the first time is 30 years old for men and 28.6 years for women. So if you look at divorce rate in 1981, I said it was 53%, and now it's down to 45%. That has a lot to do with the fact that now in 2021, men aren't getting married until 30 and women aren't getting married till 28. Back in the day, they used to get married, not long back in the day, 40 years ago, they used to get married at 15. So we're going to adjust the marriage rate for the overall population once society gets accustomed to people getting married later in life. And so when we adjust those numbers, that 45% divorce rate is going to go back up to 50% or even higher. So in my book, I suggest that we're speeding towards 60% divorce rate. And so the question that you pose is marriage forever, or another question that I pose to myself, what can be done about marriage? The first thing that we need to do about marriage, the first thing that we need to consider is that marriage is, to answer the question, not forever. The second thing I say is you got to treat marriage like a business. You got to treat romance like a business. That is my primary solution, if there is a solution. You got to treat it like a business. And the reason I say treat it like a business is because you can get married. Two people come together and you make a contract. You literally make a contract. The government holds your contract, your marriage license. It's recognized by a state and then recognized by other states and territories. So there's a contract there. Two people come, they agree, they sign. But only one person has to file for a divorce. Now, it's a lengthy process. The judge will send you to counseling and show that you tried to make it work, blah, 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 blah. But all of that, in the end of the day, it takes two people to come together, but one person to separate those two people. Now, remember, I started earlier with when marriage was started in the Christian view 2,000, 3,000 years ago with the Jews, and it was a male chauvinist society, and the man made all the decisions. Well, is society like that today? What is the biggest change between the Judeo-Christian view of marriage and today's view of marriage? And the biggest change, well, the second biggest change I'll start with is romanticism. At the end of an Enlightenment era, Europeans were writing about things that came to their mind, and one of the things that came to their mind was the idea of getting married for something other than money, treating marriage as something different than just a business. And you started having all these great ideas, stories like, the princess Rapunzel letting down her hair and the princess finding a prince who come and save her, and all of these wonderful things that never happened before, because that's not how it worked. The princess didn't get to choose who she married. If any of you are historians or like to study World War II history, World War I and World War II, all of the European families that were involved were all cousins, because it was very common, very popular for the king to marry his daughter off to his cousin in a neighboring state to solidify the family ties and to prevent wars, which, of course, didn't work in World War I and II because the cousins still had wars. They still went and fought each other. The idea, though, was between Wales and Britain and France and Italy and Germany was to stop each other from getting into wars and fighting by marrying the cousins. And even in ancient times, a lot of people, you could only marry your cousin. You could only marry your family member because your blood was pure. So Europeans started thinking about what could we do other than just getting married to stop territorial wars or to kick it with the homies or, just for fun. What could we do other than this real business structure of marriage? and they came up with romance. I want to get married for love. That's why Shakespeare wrote about the very world famous story of Romeo and Juliet, right? They wrote about Romeo and Juliet and the tragedy of them trying to work on getting married for love. And it was a big thing. All the great writers were writing about getting married for love, and it's permeated into society, and that created what we call romanticism, where we want to marry for our own reasons. We want to marry because this person is our sun, moon, our star. This person is special to us. This person is everything. We don't want to marry just to keep the farm in dad's name. We don't even want to have a farm. We want to move on. We want to do something different. We want to believe that even though we're Cinderella and we're the ugly cousin, sister, stepsister, whatever, that we're going to have a prince who really loves us and who really is going to sacrifice it all just for us, that we could be something. And that idea is an old idea. I don't know anyone who studied Eastern religion, but that's the same concept that the Hindus came up with when Hinduism had only 4 castes, and the only 2 top castes could go to heaven. So the bottom 2 castes came up with a different religion because they didn't want to always go to hell. They couldn't afford to go to heaven and do the rituals that it would take to go to heaven. So what did? They invented Buddhism, and they invented Jainism, and they invented other philosophies that would allow them to succeed in life. It was the same thing. Romanticism was like, hey, an idea of how to succeed where the traditional views failed them. And that has caused us a huge problem. So in the last 100 years, people in the United States are marrying for love, making decisions, getting married. They're no longer letting their parents choose their mate. They're choosing for themselves. And that has caused big problems because when your parents pick your partner, your parents look for compatibility in a way that you would never look for. Love doesn't make for this deep thought out compatibility concept. Love is an emotional connection that you're trying to have this with a person that may or may not be a long-term thing. Your parents didn't love your partner when they were picking for you. And even in society, many countries in the world today still have arranged marriages. But in the United States, we don't anymore because we said we're going to do it for love. Well, that's the second biggest problem with marriage today, that each individual is deciding for themselves who they're going to marry without really the input of others, very little input, if any. The first biggest problem is women. Women are no longer chattel like they were in the Bible days. They're no longer beholden to whatever whims their father or their man decides. They get to make decisions for themselves. Women get to decide their own career. They get to decide their own, lifestyle. They get to decide many different things, including if they want to get divorced. And so if you're a modern man, if you're getting married today, even if you're a baby boomer and you got divorced and you're trying to get back into the dating game, you're not going to be able to approach marriage in the way that you might have 30 years ago. It's not possible because there's laws like you can rape your wife. That law is only about 40 years old. So if you're 50, 60 years old and you got married 50 years ago, you're going to have to respect your wife in a way that you didn't have to your first wife. And that's a huge difference. That's a big deal. Women have changed the game. Society recognizes women in a way that they've never been recognized before, and women can utilize that power. But with great power comes great responsibility, and the women with that power are the primary, as we've said before in our other cast, women are the primary initiators of divorce in society today. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think a lot of men are having a hard time sharing the power, like anyone would. If you are always in charge and all of a sudden now you have to share your power, you're going to struggle with that, especially if you don't want to share your power. I mean, who wants to share power? People with power aren't very keen on sharing it.
No one.
No one wants to share power. And so these two things are the essence of my book. One, that romanticism is a joke. Getting married for love is not going to get you anywhere. It's going to get you to exactly where we are, speeding towards 60% divorce rate. You have to marry for more than feelings because feelings change. No matter how much you love someone today, you're not going to love them the same 5, 10, 15 years later, if you love them at all. And everyone thinks, well, I love them more. You might love them more, but you may love them less. And two, women with the power to walk away from the marriage that they didn't have in our parents' generation. We are the first generation, the 80s babies, people who were born 1975 and after, hell, 1978 and after, us 80s babies, what are we, generation, we're the millennials, right?
We
millennials.
We are fall under millennials. Hold on.
Yeah, we millennials
and
are the first generation of women who get to choose more things, 10 times more things than their mothers ever did. The first generation, a new experiment. And so if you're a man dating a millennial, aspiring to marry a millennial, guess what you have to do? You have to conduct yourself in a way that your father never thought of. You have to go about that relationship in a way that your father never imagined. I know for a fact that my father, when he married my mother, didn't look at things the way I looked at things when I got married to my wife 4 years ago. And that is a huge, 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 huge thing to consider. And that is, to me, one of the major reasons why marriages aren't forever, but they can't be forever. Because how are you going to convince someone for not only the rest of your life, but their life, that you are, well, not to say you, that they have to sacrifice everything for you? Because that's what marriage is. Sacrificing day in and day out for someone else, making sure that someone else knows that they are the most important thing to you. That gets old, I imagine, for some people. I've only been married for 4 years, but I know that gets old. Just being a human being, you get tired of saying, what does my husband want today? What does my wife want today? What does my husband want today? That gets old. And not only what do they want, but I have to sacrifice some of what I want in order to fulfill what they want. What do you think, Chaos?
And what's good, everybody? Before I give my thoughts, let me give the call number for those who want to call in. The call number for today's stream is 717-908-1834, access code 917-324#. I repeat, 717-908-1834, access code 917-324#. And you know today's subject is marriage forever with Dr. Blaque? You said a lot of good things, actually a lot of great things, Dr. Blaque. One thing that sticks to me is I find with the modern man, you know, they always talk about this modern woman, that he doesn't know that there was a lot of things in place for men that protected a lot of men up until the early 70s. You get me? And knowing this, that now that men have not really adjusted, and I think most majority men today that's smart really refuse to adjust. They still feel that they have to still do the 100% thing if they can, and, you know, provider, you know, protector and all that stuff, while the woman, to what they claim, doesn't really do nothing. And, you know, I hear these talk being lingered throughout the internet. My question I should ask these brothers that, okay, so why do you decide to get married to this woman if she doesn't really bring anything tangible to you? You get me? If you didn't really see it or not, because by default, we fall in love for romance. And really, truly, that's the only thing that's really binding the modern/average human today in the first world, Western world. Can we agree?
I agree. Romanticism is the default, and that's actually what I'm trying to help people to get away from, because that's not working. Like a lot of things we default to, it's not working. So yes, definitely, people are just getting married for love. Absolutely.
So the best thing a man could do at this point is to get away from. And mind you, I let y'all know I don't like that word romanticism because it goes back to Roman stuff. You know, where they said in Rome we do the Romans do, and if people really did their due diligent research and historical of these Romans that are classified as Europeans, that they did a lot of filth and disgusting, degenerate stuff. Personally, if you really look into the history, they used to have, you know, intercourse with other males, maybe children, and other things. And when you talk about romanticism, when people say, you know, we engage romance, you're still engaged in old Christian/Judaism Roman laws. You get me? And mind you, we are, last time I checked, our black, African, whatever you want to call us, people. We're not Romans. So if we're doing something now in the 21st century, it has to be divorced off of romanticism, unfortunately. I'm not saying you can't like your mate, but like and love comes with time. And there was an old African proverb where I got off a book by Jehudi. He said that usually love builds with time with your mate. You just don't get married for love. You get that during as your relationship grows in a marriage. Now, how you write your book now, Paco, it's going to be a little bit more different than how we think of now. But like I said, in our old ways, when we were still in our so-called identity, whatever black people want to call it, we never really got married for love, personally.
But that's a perfect segue. If you'll let me take it from there, that's a perfect segue into what I have to offer the conversation, because I don't like to only talk about problems. I like to talk about solutions. And so I'm writing a romance book about how we can overcome some of the problems. And to me, if what you say is true about our ancient or our old African ways and how we viewed relationships, I agree with those old ways. Love is something that should come with time. Yes, you can have love at first sight, but what good is love at first sight? Love at first sight, is that going to help you to have a long, successful relationship? Probably not, because that initial feeling is you haven't dived into it yet. You haven't looked into it yet. You haven't done any research on it. And I'm talking about researching within yourself. You don't know to what extent that love at first sight is going to go anywhere. So you should have, if your goal is to stay with someone for many, many years, you should have at least a few years of contemplating the partnership. Just like the example I use in my book, I say, why did Sprint partner with T-Mobile? Sprint could have easily bought Boost Mobile or Cricket or something. So why did they choose T-Mobile? It's not just money. But T-Mobile and Sprint were equal partners. They could look at each other in the eye. They had something to offer each other. And they knew the competition was beating both of them. So they both wanted to improve, but they also both respected each other on a level that they could understand. Had Sprint purchased Boost Mobile or Cricket, or tried to partner with Boost Mobile or Cricket, Boost Mobile and Cricket don't have what it takes to be a real partner to Sprint. And it would have just been more or less a hostile takeover, with Sprint being the overwhelming dominant and Boost Mobile being a weaker, inferior partner. And it would not have felt anything like a partnership. There's no way Boost Mobile could have partnered with Sprint. Sprint would have just took over. And that's how marriage has been. Traditionally, how marriage has been. The man is the dominant one, and the woman just comes in, gives him babies, and do what they want. The problem is women aren't like that today. So if women aren't like most women, there are women out there who still want to have that lifestyle, and more power to them. Good luck. I mean, I've made some videos on my TikTok about if you want to be a stay-at-home mom, and so be it if that's what you want. But for the majority of women, they go to school, they graduate school, they have professions, they're educated, they make money. So they're not going to just want to be told what to do and sit in a corner and squeeze out babies. And so if you're engaged in a woman who is millennial or younger, who has a profession, who brings something to the table, you're going to have to speak to her in a manner that respects her contributions. And so that is going to require you to do an extended level of dating beyond love at first sight, beyond, listen, you're cute, you got great childbearing hips, I can see us having kids together, let me ask you, Daddy, how many camels I can get for you. It's not going to be that simple. It's not that simple anymore. Even though there are places in the world who still conduct marriages in that way, for those of us in the Western world where the woman has a say, you're going to have to do more than just tell her she's pretty and come home and have your kids. You're going to have to get to know her on multiple levels. And hopefully, this goes to the women also, you're going to have to get to know the man on multiple levels. For the women out there who hope that some man is going to come in, swoop in, and just be the right guy for you without learning anything about him, and you're just going to stay home and have his kids and everything's going to work out great, you're lying to yourself, and I reject that 100%. I don't care how subservient you are as a woman. I don't care how submissive you are as a woman. If you're in this day and age dating, you're not going to be able to be your grandmother. You don't have what it takes. I always say you can never be as conservative as your grandparents were. And a lot of people say, I'm a conservative person, I'm traditional, I'm going to do it like they did back in the day. You're not. You can't give internet back. You can't give cell phones back. You can't give cryptocurrency back. And you can't pretend to be what your grandparents used to be. You can't pretend to not know the things that you already know. What you know is in your head. And what you know is that if your husband beats you up a few times, you can not only get him arrested, but you can go out and get a job and take care of the children yourself so you don't have to keep getting beat up. Your grandmother didn't know that. And let's just be real. Grandma stayed with granddad through the physical abuse because grandma didn't have another option or not a good option. She didn't have the choice to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and get a job and handle my own business and not keep letting granddad do to me. And trust me, when grandma could do that, she left. But the majority of grandmas couldn't. The majority of women in the great generation and the early baby boomers couldn't leave, so they stayed. The women today and the millennials can leave, and they can make a damn good living, and they can raise their children as good as they can. And I don't think that women raising children alone is a superior option, but I'm not telling any woman to get her eye dotted just to say that she's with the kids. With the children's father. So we got to date is what I'm saying. We have to date longer, and we have to get to know our partners. Both of us, all sides, have to get to know the partners more than just, hey, you're cute. I've been seeing you around for the first semester. Let's get married. Look at these movies that we see from generations ago and how easy it was. Like, oh, man, I done known this girl for a month. We're getting married. And that used to be, surprisingly enough, a rational way of thinking. It no longer is. Because that woman, if you knew her for a month back in 1920 and you married her, she wasn't going to leave you after, 6 months or a year of you putting her through crack. I was in the United States military. I served as a veteran. This is really close to my heart, watching people who are 19 years old on their second marriage. But what do you mean you're on your second marriage? You're 19 years old. You just got out of high school. Well, when you're in the military and you're away, and the military will, as a benefit of being married, it will allow both military members who are married to increase their income so they can live off base and have a family. That's a traditional way. They've been doing that for more than 50 years, back when people didn't just get divorced so easily. But guess what now? The millennials are getting divorced left and right. Like, you know what? It wasn't such a great idea marrying this person I never met in my life, who I only knew from tech school from my first couple months in the military just to get the money. Come to find out, I get a couple $100, hell, I get $1,000 extra a paycheck, but I lose it all after divorcing this person in 6 months. I never made the money because it cost $10,000 to get divorced. It wasn't mathematically such a good idea. There's no financial advisor that would recommend this. And I saw a lot of people getting divorced at 19, 20, 21. I had a buddy who was on his second marriage at 22 years old. Unthinkable to me. Because in his mind, he was trying to behave like his grandparents, but he had to deal with a woman in the modern time. And we have to date. My videos on TikTok address a lot of basic dating parameters. Go out on dates. Be in public with this person. Pay attention to their temperament. Red flags. Can they hold a conversation that interests you? Can they talk about something other than sex? Do they have a career? How long have they been on their job? Do they have more to offer you than aspirations? Now, I didn't like this book. I read a bunch of books that helped me to prepare for my book because I'm not a marriage counselor, and the majority of people who write romance books are counselors. So I decided to read a bunch of these books in order to try to be on their level. I didn't want my book to just be some, casual amateur book, even though I'm an amateur in the marriage counseling area. And I didn't like this book, but it made a very famous movie, Think Like a Man by Steve Harvey. And in Think Like a Man, they had a bunch of different male characters who were in different stages of dating and what would bring them into the romantic situation that might lead to success. And it even has Steve Harvey narrating. And you guys remember, if you watched the movie, the chef who was supposed to be, I forgot exactly what they called him, but he was the aspirational one, right? He was the, hey, I'm going to be a chef one day. And I think it's Taji P. Henderson was evaluating him. It's like, yeah, he might make it, but he might not. And, in the end, they got together. But that process to me was the most important of all of them. You got to look at the person you're dating and see, are they anything like what they say they want to be like? What is the percentage that they're going to succeed? How can you tell if they're actually doing what they say they're trying to do, or are they just giving you lip service? You know, because that matters. It matters. It matters a lot. You know, how long have you been on your job? How often do you change jobs? That matters, because that kind of person you're going to have to deal with legally on paper when you agree to marry them. And is that a headache you want to put up with? Are you marrying someone who's like one of your children? One of my number one rules is do not marry someone who's going to be another dependent. Now, I'm a feminist, and I am really trying to talk to the ladies, because I want the ladies to, they have equal power. They have a lot of equal power. They're closest to equals as they've ever been in human society. So that means they have a lot more responsibility. I say to the ladies, you already have, especially African-American females, the women of African descent, you already have a lot of responsibility taking care of the children and the family, with a lot of men not there helping you out. So you got to pay attention to the bigger picture when other people might not, other groups, other races might not. And you can't take certain things for granted. And you really have to pay attention to what kind of man you have and what he's doing, because you're ultimately responsible. And if you got kids or a kid, then, hey, don't date a man who's going to be another damn dependent, right? Leave these guys alone who you've never seen go to work, who come to your house and stay at your house for weeks on end. Or if you pick a guy like that, don't complain about it, because you're accepting this nonsense. So that's one of my favorite red flags, one of my favorite rules of thumb. Do not accept another dependent. If you got kids already, what the hell are you going to do with a man who is just another kid that you got to feed him and clothe him and give him money for his Xbox and drop him off at his mama's house occasionally? It's not acceptable. But if you accept it all the way and stay off of social media crying about it when you did this with your eyes wide open. And that's the last thing I want to say about it real quick. We got to get into dating with our eyes wide open. We got to stop imagining how a person might be and how we hope they could be and how they could be. And we got to accept people as who they are, because no one was born to be what you need or what you want. It is not no one else's responsibility to be what you want. It's your responsibility to, A, know yourself and what you need, and to find a compatible partner who can provide you what you need. And that's why I say we got to treat romance like a business. What you going to say, brother?
Well, I want to say this. I'm just going something I say. Okay, that sounds clear. I would say this. You know, it's funny when you lay out these questions to your opposite mate. It sounds like more like the thing that the ladies don't like to hear. Say, what do you bring to the table? Especially asking those type of questions. They're going to look at you maybe odd or funny. But when I think about in the longevity of things, that certain questions should be asked, especially if you're going to consider this as a union that will be potentially forever. I said potentially. But as long as we can, make it as long as last we could able to be. And the funny thing on Paco, these conversations should be had more, because we live in serious times as a people personally. Because think about it, anybody could hightail out at a given notice, and we always say that someone's going to benefit, someone's going to lose in divorce, because there's only winners and losers. Depending if you marry someone that's in an equal playing field as you might be able to weather the storm. But overall, most of us, we when someone's married, usually somebody's going to be more up in the other, on the average. So when dudes don't understand that, if you're going to marry this woman and she doesn't bring nothing tangible to your life or anything tangible to the table, then obviously you're fooling yourself in the long run. It makes sense that she will sit there, get bored, tired, or have some issues during the relationship. that's probably kept secretly, that eventually once she got what she wants, all she does is wait for the right moment, right time, and eventually, takes the ring on her finger and send you on your way with your walking papers.
Well, it's we don't want to be one-sided and say she's going to send you on your way to walking paper. But you're absolutely right. That is the way society is today. People aren't always open and upfront about what they want. People have ulterior motives, especially in our society. And I'm saying the reason this is because unlike 100 years ago when we were a chauvinistic society and men made all the decisions and women had to get permission like they do in Saudi Arabia today. If you're a woman, you want to get your driver's license, they just now, 2019, authorized women to drive in Saudi Arabia. Women to drive on their own, but they still have to get permission from their father or their husband to go get the license. That's still a thing. But in America, women get to make decisions, majority of the decisions, if not all decisions, on their own, right? If you know as a millennial or a younger man that the woman that you may be interested in has these options, you have to conduct yourself as if that's a fact. You have to prepare yourself. I always say when men are partnering with other men, they consider these simple truths. They consider that, this man might, have as much power as I do. He's a man, I'm a man. It's pretty simple. We're playing a sport. We're playing football. We're playing basketball. We're playing soccer. We know that the other teammates have power too. We know we can't just bully them. We got to give them a certain level of respect as a man. Well, that's the same level of respect that we got to give our ladies when we're getting into a romance with them. We have to grasp this simple concept that both parties have power. Both parties deserve respect, and both parties can make decisions unilaterally, which is why we're going to be increasing the divorce rate from 45%, because the women can just get a divorce just as much as a man can. Just as much. So if you're in a relationship where, the other party can make a decision as much as you can, then you're going to talk to them a certain way. You're going to prepare a certain way. You're going to recognize that and act accordingly, or you won't, but at least you won't be surprised when they leave you. And I think that's a big hurdle for us men to get over in society today. We're just uncomfortable accepting that the woman has the power too. And you and I have been on the other side of social media, on the other side of YouTube. We've been in the manosphere and heard all these men say, oh, well, women get the most divorces. They file for the most divorces. And they do. Mm-hmm. But they act as if that's just a happenstance. There's a reason why women file for more divorces. And the main reason that women file for more divorces than men is because they're showing off their power. They have a choice. You can't force them to stay like your granddaddy could have.
Yeah.
It's a different situation. So now that you can't force them to stay, guess what? They don't have to stay. They're not staying. It's the same thing. When the women in Saudi Arabia no longer have to ask their father or their husband to get a driver's license, what are they going to do? They're going to go get a driver's license without getting permission, because all human beings want to and will use their power. They will.
Well, actually, it's much deeper, and we got a caller. Raise their hand. They are exercising options.
That's right, as they should. And so for all of us dating, we have to say to ourselves, yes, we might be a catch. I'm the man. I'm a great catch. This girl's lucky to have me, blah, 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 all of that. Whatever positive reinforcement you have for yourself, whatever, confidence you have in yourself, that's great. But if you cross that line of confidence into arrogance, you're going to end up really surprised when your woman leaves you, because you aren't considering that she's an equal party. She has just as much power as you. She is just as good as you. Or at least she thinks so, and she has every right to think so. It doesn't matter if you don't think she does, she thinks she does. And what are you going to do when she exercises her power, when she does what she has the legal right to do?
All right.
If you treat her with respect from the get-go, if you treat her with a level of respect, not just generic respect, but a certain level of respect from the get-go, you're going to give yourself a chance. But if you don't, we're going to be speeding to 60% divorce rate. And our granddaddies didn't have to give grandma that level of respect, but we got to give our women that level of respect. My wife works for NASA. I can't talk to her the way that I would talk to a girl who works at McDonald's or a girl who doesn't work at all. It doesn't matter if my wife listens to, let's imagine I was saying, girl, I'm the man, da-da-da-da-da. I could say whatever I want. But at the end of the day, she looks on the wall, she sees her graduation, her degree. She remembers her professional life. She logs onto the computer and you see this big NASA logo and all these questions for people in her department. And she says, no matter what you're saying over there, I'm living my life. I'm doing my thing. And if you don't want to meet me halfway, there's another brother who will. And I feel like a lot of men in society today are having a real hard time accepting that. Not that you could always get someone else. That's not the point. It's if you aren't doing the bare minimum, if you're not giving your partner the bare minimum respect, you're setting yourself up for that divorce. Don't even bother getting married. Don't even bother getting married if you as a human being can't master the bare minimum level of respect that's required in today's society. Forget grandma, forget great-grandma. Hell, forget your parents. We're the first generation to have to do this, and we better get it right or we're going to be divorced. Go ahead with your question, brother.
No, I have somebody raise their hand. The lines are open. Anytime you guys have a question, you could press *61, and I will open lines for those who have questions for today's topic. And for the reminder, tonight's topic is Chaos Rain Presents, Is Marriage Forever? First caller, open up. Anonymous. All right, hello?
Hey, Gary. How you doing? This is Gigi.
How you doing, Gigi? What's the question?
Hi. I have 2 questions and a comment. So my one comment is that, hello, guest, welcome.
Thank you.
You stated that women will get a divorce because they're showing off their power?
Absolutely. I'm not saying they will. I said they have, and they can. Women have gotten the divorce for that reason, and they can for that reason. You mean no one can decide for another person what their reason is. We can only accept their reason, what they've said, their position, or we could also deduce from what we know. We know someone has this point of view, things they said in the past, blah, 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 and so we deduce that they were being honest when they were making those statements. Those statements were sincere, and so that led to this moment. And I don't know if you've ever met a woman who's very confident, but I have met quite a few, and you can deduce a confident woman would say, I married this guy. He was supposed to treat me a certain way. He didn't treat me the way I felt, and so, hey, he don't think I could leave? Think about what I'm saying. Maybe you've heard this, ma'am. Maybe you heard this. He don't think I can leave, and then she says, I'm going to show him, and she leaves. Isn't that an example of a woman getting divorced because she's showing off her power?
Would
you agree with that?
I don't think most women would do that.
I agree with you. I didn't say most. I said, is that an example of a woman who's showing off her power? Yeah, but we're talking about a specific thing. I want us to stay on the subject before you move on. I'm asking you if you can answer the question, please. Is that an example of a woman?
I'm calling in to ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
So what I'm saying is I think it's a little insensitive to say a woman is showing off her power by leaving or getting a divorce as if she didn't contemplate logical, rational reasons why she may want to separate or have a divorce. Not just that she's showing off, but because she has concrete reasons for that. That's my question. Or my comment. That's my comment, and I have 2 questions. My question is to Gary. Gary, have you ever been married or engaged to be married?
Gigi, you know I never said I was married.
I don't know.
I'm not sure why this has to be reiterated.
Okay, so I'm gonna comment on your comment, Ms. Gigi, because you said your comment was that the woman, it's insensitive to suggest that the woman would do it just to show off her power. And the problem is that you're saying that you're taking the part, and I'm saying, assuming that I'm saying that's the only reason she's getting divorced. I didn't say only. I didn't say it has to be. I didn't make any determinations. I'm saying that human beings, when they get ability to exercise new power, they will exercise their new power. That includes the women who my generation, the millennials, are the first generation of women who can exercise this greater power of deciding their own life, which includes getting divorced. I didn't say that's the only reason women are doing this. I didn't even say it's a major reason. I said it happened. You may not agree, but I'm not trying to be insensitive. I'm actually trying to respect people's power or choices, because I don't get to choose why a person gets divorced. Only they get to choose. And I'm saying to other men like myself, it doesn't matter the reason per se. It's because it's not only up to you. What matters is understanding what's the possibilities. This is why we have a star model, or where we do, because my degree is in management, so we do a lot of deductive reasons. We do a lot of problem and preparations for problems, and we're thinking of what could happen, what's a possibility, you know. And so if you're getting into a romantic relationship, what are the possibilities? What are some problems that you may face? And one of the problems that you may face is that you don't want to get divorced, but your wife does. You have to recognize that she has the power to follow through with divorcing you, even if you as a man don't want to divorce her. Don't you agree, Ms. Gigi?
I don't know what the word power. I guess the word power is a word that a man would use. I would say influence or sphere of influence.
Okay, if you say influence, okay, that you know, you can use whatever words you make you feel comfortable. But other women who like the word power, who are powerful women, would use the word power. And I think all humans need to understand their power. All humans should understand their power. Every human has a level of power, whether they exercise it or not.
Well, I am powerful, but I'm a powerful woman, but I would not consider that power. I would consider that influence, because the female has to consider children, grandparents, godparents, social life, church life. It's not just a war of wills, I would say, to decide to separate or divorce, I think. And I would also like to state that I think that this started in the 70s, the mid-70s, when birth control became more accessible to women of all colors. I'm done.
I agree with you. That birth control had something to do with it. But what I mean is in the 70s, the women, my mother and the baby boomers, started the work environment. But their children, my brothers and sisters, specifically my sisters, now can do those jobs thanks to the women who came before. Thanks to their predecessors, my daughter would be my mother's granddaughter, can go into the workforce and pick any job she wants. Whereas my mother had to start. Have you ever seen this movie called Hidden Figures? It was about the African-American women who supported NASA and what was it, Apollo 13? Yeah. I forgot exactly. Okay. Anyway, so in Hidden Figures, those black women could only have, they were the only three, as far as we could tell, at least that's what the movie focused on, and they only had a specific job. They had to pick a job that they were told to do. They applied at NASA. They didn't just get hired. They had to be in a very tiny area, and that whole struggle of becoming a computer and so on.
Wait a minute.
Wait. Hold on. I'm just talking about
correct. That's not
what
correct.
Part is not correct.
The real character that Taraji P. Henson played is a real person who was an engineer.
Yes,
They didn't give her a job. She came in because they were going out looking at schools, requesting the smartest minds, and she just happened to be a black female.
Yeah, you missed the rest of her story because it wasn't that simple. But it's that simple now. Let's get to the point. Our children, male or female, can apply for a job and not have their gender be as big as a hurdle as it was in my mother's generation and my daughter's grandmother's generation. So the Gen Xers have, because the baby boomers, the women put in the work to prove that they're as qualified and as competent in the workforce as the men. So now we don't have to keep asking that question. We know women are as competent as men. 60 years ago, it was still a question. That's why.
Do you think,
now the question has been answered.
I'm sorry. Do you think birth control had a lot to do with that, or anything?
I don't know. I think it has little to nothing to do with it, because women having children is not a death sentence. You can get a babysitter. Many women, even today, they have children and then they leave the child with a qualified child care provider. They don't. So I don't think that the reason why women are in the workforce is because they're not having children. Matter of fact, we all know women in the workforce who have children. So children isn't like it's a minor hurdle, but it's not a major hurdle in my estimation. So no, so you asked me about birth control. I don't think birth control is a major factor. I think that the baby boomers, the women of the baby boomer generation, proved that they are competent.
That's funny. Okay. Well,
that's what I think.
Okay, I appreciate that, but I would like to say that it was birth control, because especially in the black community where we didn't really believe in abortion. I don't know what's going on now, but if we got pregnant, we had the baby, and that held us down and kept us kind of shackled to the home. And once we were able to plan pregnancies, then we were able to work and be more reliable as a source of help, financial help to our husbands and such. And also that's the reason why, quote unquote, grandma couldn't leave, because she had 6, 8, 10 children and she had no finances. That's my opinion. I'm done.
All right, Chaos. Well,
is that it, Gigi?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
And everybody else, if anybody else has any questions now, speak now or for a whole piece. The call number again, one more time, is 717-908-1824. Access code 17324#. Today's subject: Chaos Reign presents Is Marriage Forever with Dr. Blaque. Now, Dr. Blaque, and mind you, that was a good movie that you mentioned. I have not watched it personally. I gotta make the time to watch some of these movies.
You have to watch that movie. It's amazing. It's amazing what they went through.
Yeah, because if you think about it, in the 50s, women are still not favorable in the workforce. In certain parts.
That was my point.
Male work. Yeah.
That's literally my point. I know the caller was suggesting that birth control is some catastrophic game changer, and I'm not a biologist or a medical expert, so I never did the history of birth control. Maybe I should consider that for part of my book. But what I did study, the social science. Okay, I'll look into it. But the social science is whether women were having children or not, and to respect the caller's point, women are having less children. The United States of America is having less children. The birth rate is down in the United States of America. So that does coincide. That is in lockstep with the women in the workforce. But I don't think that that's a primary factor. It's just my opinion. I don't think that having less children is as much of a factor as the question has to be answered, because, again, I've been to other countries. If you go to Saudi Arabia right now, and I say Saudi Arabia because it's a very conservative country versus the United States of America is more of a liberal, open country. If you go to Saudi Arabia right now, one of the most restrictive countries for female rights, the women go to college, but the law says that they cannot get into the workforce without permission from their male guardian, either their father or their husband. So are you telling me that birth control is what's stopping those women from going to work in the workforce? No, it's not. What's stopping those women from going to work in the workforce is the same thing what's stopping women in America from going to workforce in the 1950s. The society didn't recognize women to be qualified, competent employees, so they didn't hire them. They didn't think that women were the best teachers. They didn't think that women were able to drive a truck or they were good nurses or so on and so forth. Hell, if it wasn't for World War II, the women in the 1950s wouldn't have even gotten a chance, because what happened in World War II? The men went to war. They needed so many supplies. They had that large influx of development and manufacturing for the war, and the women were the primary workers in the factories to produce a lot of the parts for the weapons. That's why you have that picture of the lady and her flexing her muscle. I forgot what the name of that picture is. That came from the women's empowerment, the women working movement in World War II. What was it called?
Rosie the Riveter, but she should have been
Thank
black.
you. Rosie the Riveter. Yes. So Rosie the Riveter. Thank you. Rosie the Riveter. So we know that Rosie the Riveter was a reflection of the women who were working in the factories in World War II to rivet. I do rivets. I've done maintenance, mechanical work. You rivet and you shoot a piece of metal into another piece of metal to hold two pieces of metal together like a bolt. And so riveting. And so we know that led to them considering, wow, women can do more than sit home and have kids. Women can do more than babysit. They can rivet, for crying out loud. They can assemble. They can be on an assembly line. And so society started to think about it. And then in the 50s, they started to let these women who studied practice some of the things. So women went into nursing, women into teaching. They didn't let them be pilots yet, but it's a step-by-step process. So I don't think it has as much to do with birth control. That's my opinion. But I also haven't studied the effects of birth control in society because I imagine that's a very complicated thing, especially with the HIPAA laws. It'd be hard to figure out exactly how birth control affected employment is what I'm saying. Those two things are very hard to research. How would you connect one with the other? I imagine that's a hard thing to do. It's not a straight line.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I didn't say it was wrong. I said I imagine it would be a hard thing to connect birth control with employment.
I respectfully disagree because I know for a fact that if you're pregnant and if you have small children, you can't go to work. There's not like every black woman from slavery till even now, I would say, had to work. A very few percentage of black women in America, ADOs, just sat down and took care of kids. We always had to have some kind of way to make money, whether it was laundry or cooking or housekeeping or something. So we never really, as black women, never really had the luxury of just sitting back and waiting for the man to come home with it, and do everything by himself. Even though if you look at an application or if you look at a chart, it would say the woman is a housewife or a housekeeper, homemaker. I think they used to say homemaker. But the baby was the issue because you can't go. Where can you go if you have 4, 5, 6 kids? Who's going to take care of your 6 children while you go to work? It doesn't even make sense. By the time you pay off the babysitter, that's your entire check. So I'll leave it at that. But thank you.
So this is time for one of my favorite stories on how you met. There's that show, How You Met Your Mother. Chaos. This is my how I met my wife, and I met my wife. She was 8 months pregnant, working for the United States military when I went to my first civilian job after being in the military. So I worked as a civilian for the command or the military unit that my wife was working at. And I don't know why, for the first time in my life, I thought a pregnant woman was gorgeous. And my wife, to me, was an amazingly beautiful, gorgeous person. She was just radiant, and she was pregnant, and she was working. And I bring that up because the United States military recognized when they had to integrate the females into the service that women would get pregnant. And the Navy, maybe more than other branches, have a lot of problem with fraternization. And unfortunately for the military, a lot of women get pregnant. So they have a whole process, step-by-step process of what uniforms you could wear, when you can take your maternity uniforms, what hours you can work, what can you be ordered to do, what you can't be ordered to do. And so I understand that some people would think ideally or just common sense that women can't work while they're pregnant. I think that's a bit too general. You can't work while you're giving birth, but the doctors have figured out now 100,000 years into humanity, to what extent a woman can work, and lots of women work while they're pregnant. And I agree. Many women work while they're pregnant. I'll be very clear. Many women work while they're pregnant.
I know.
And also,
too.
I understand. There you go. And so I understand if you have a lot of kids, you might have a hard time with childcare. But what if you don't have a lot of kids? What if you have one child, like my wife did? Are you gonna be able to do your job? Yes, you are.
We were talking about grandma.
And in 1950, in 1960, when grandma was getting into the workforce, she might have had 2 kids, and the older child would watch the younger child. That's what my parents did. My older sister watches. My parents didn't hire a babysitter. So there's lots of options. It's not set in stone. You think it's birth control? I don't. I think it has to do with society accepting the value that women bring to the workforce. I think that's what it had a lot to do with. Letting go of chauvinism because it benefits society to hire women. We're reaping those benefits. We have a female vice president, so women are smart. They're very smart. They're smarter than men. And any school you go to, women have the higher grades, the better attendance. And I'm talking about every grade, every school that has unisex, has male and female. Women have the better grades by sex, by gender, better grades, better attendance, higher graduation rates. So society finally realized that we should incorporate the smarter half of our race, human race, into the workforce, and it's paid off dividends.
Before you continue, ABC, if you want to leave comments, I would say better if you called in, because as you know it, this is a discussion on a topic at hand. I don't mind reading from the chat room, but if you're going to say some things like that, it better if you call in and bring your claim. Why would you, in your mind, would say something in that nature, personally? All right? I'm reading it right now, and I don't like people to sit there, type up. And this is a call-in show. Let's have the discussion. You know?
Can I say something, Gary?
Is it a question? Because I think some of the people are going to try to come on the line.
No, it's not a question. I just want to
make it brief. Go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to thank Deep H2OB1 for saving ABC show yesterday with his conversation. I'm done.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, if you are working on, that's unfortunate. That's very unfortunate. Oh well. Let me see who else, if anybody else raised their hand. Before I check the lines, let me add on to this. There was a point in history that women had to be under the rules of men, and I'm clearly understand. But today's times, and much times men don't want to hear it. It's hard to see me as a man personally. We going back to those ways personally. I don't care what gender or racial, ethnic background. This country has made laws and structured society to the point to let women get the leg up in things. The only thing you could do as a man is you must understand the law of the land, where it is, where it's possibly going, and either you're going to adapt or you're going to make the change. There's only 2 things. There's no in between. If they're doing it now in a third world country like Saudi Arabia, that tells you that the times that we're in are changing very rapidly. And we all know in dealing with those Muslims or those Arabs and stuff, they're very much heavily patriarchal. Have you noticed, Paco, because you experience overseas, that these men will sit there, if their wives do something out of order to a degree, that they possibly could get stoned to death?
No question about it. And so it's not just in an Arab country. Those are the rules. Judeo-Christian. I think they just say Judeo-Christian because they don't want to say Islamo, Judeo-Christian too long. But that's the rules. That's the Jews. It says it in the Bible that if your wife commits adultery, you're supposed to stone her. Well, in a Muslim country, Sharia law, we always hear it on the news. Mm-hmm. Adultery is not only if you have intercourse, but you could be looking at a man, you could be flirting with a man, you could kiss him. Yeah. And this is the worst part, he could kiss you. So let's say, and
wow.
they briefed us on this when we went over there. Our company briefed us on this. They said, listen, don't ever, ever, ever look or stare or anything. If a person has their hijab on, if they're covered, their face covered, or even if they're not, don't stare at them, because what happens is if you and her are in any kind of situation and the authorities come, it's just easy to blame it on her and just say, well, she made me do it. Her hair was really beautiful. Her eyes really beautiful, whatever. She may be completely innocent, but you as a man, the benefit is in your court, and she'll get the punishment. Now, she doesn't necessarily get stoned right away, but it could go that far. Mm-hmm. It could possibly be that she'll get stoned because you were staring at her and she didn't do anything, because that's the laws. And that has been the laws for 2,000 years. The Jews came up with it. The Semites came up with it. It's a thing. It's unfortunate. Thank goodness the United States and the Western world don't behave like that anymore. But there are places in the world who do behave like that. Indonesia. There are places. There are places in the world where women don't have remotely any rights, the slightest of rights. And it's so patriarchal that the man is always right. And in that case, women are getting stoned when they don't deserve to. Not that I don't think anyone deserves to get stoned, but yeah, it's a real thing. It's a very, very real thing, and it's real difficult to deal with. So we're fortunate, and the women in America, the women in the West, don't have to face that, and they're utilizing their power and their human rights in a different way, and that's a good thing, I think, for all of us. I am a feminist, so I know other people disagree, but I think it's a good thing for all of us that we treat each other as equals with equal respect. I think our society is better because we have equal respect. Much better, actually. I want my daughter to date a man who is going to treat her as an asset and a partner, and not as a baby factory or an afterthought like grandma used to be treated as. I want him to be concerned with the fact that if he disrespects or treats my daughter wrong, that he could lose her. I don't want him to sleep at night knowing that no matter what he does, she'll stay with him. Right? And you don't have children yet, but I do. I have 2 daughters. I want every man to date my daughter to know that I'm raising the queen, and you better have your act together if you want to have her in your life. That's important, and I think I live like that. A woman who, when I was dating, women knew they had to come at me a certain kind of way or I wouldn't be around, and that's just inherent in most people. Most people know, hey, I bring something to the table, and I think you saw one of my videos. I made some videos on TikTok and on Instagram about what you bring to the table. It matters. And everyone knows, especially men know. Every man know that you have to beat out the next man. There's competition for the person you want. The prettier that she is, the more better background she has, the more skills she has, the more people are going to want her. And so men know it's a competition. I feel some of the women in society today are uncomfortable with the idea that there's a competition for the man. They're like, hey, I like you. You got to like me back. If you like me back, then there's no competition. It's all me. That's not true. There's always competition. The better a person is, there's competition. And you got to want to work to keep that valuable asset. So on one end, I feel the men have to pay more attention to treating their woman as an asset. Just like if a man is going into a business partnership with another man, he knows that man is an asset to him. They're going to grow their business together. I feel you treat your woman the same way. She's an asset. You're going to grow with her, especially if you want to have a long-term relationship. And women have to understand there's competition. You know, your man is all that, and if you want to be with a man that's bringing a lot to the table, you got to be the kind of woman that's going to be able to handle that and to, you know, protect that. You should protect your assets, just like you do with your bank account and your Bitcoin and your stocks and bonds. Your partner is an asset. It better be an asset. Your partner has to be an asset. Why are you with them if they're not an asset? And you shouldn't be the only asset to them. They also have to be an asset to you. That's why I keep saying, don't get another dependent. You're doing yourself an injustice if you're a woman out here working a 9 to 5, you got a child, and then you got some guy who's, playing video games on your couch all day while you're at work. Men know that. Men know that's not okay. Even men who marry women who are trophy wives or stay-at-home wives, they are assets to those men. Those men want those women to be where they are. They want them to be, if you're the trophy wife, the man knows when I go out to these events, I got a gorgeous woman on my arm. Everybody knows that I have a certain status because I have this trophy wife. Or if you got a woman who's a stay-at-home mom, I'm not spending money on child care. I have beautiful children. They're healthy, and they're home with my wife. My wife is tucked away. Other men ain't putting with her at work and all this other stuff. So those women are assets to them. Women, you have to also, now that you have the power, you got to look at your man in the same way. You have to look at your partner in the same way. Is he an asset to you? Is he providing you things that you need? It can't just be that you're just the one working hard. It shouldn't be a one-sided relationship. And Chaos, you've seen it. We've heard people talk about it on all different social media. All these women out here complaining that these men aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's your fault. You let someone into your life that's not an asset. And that's why my book is called The Business of the Business of Romance, because I want people to look at their partnerships as assets. Go ahead.
Boy, Dr. Blaque, they're not going to like you after the end of the stream. They're going to find out who's this nigga. Who's this man?
Yeah, that's all right.
He's writing a book.
I'm easy to find.
I hope his book don't sell. And no one's going to read this. Who are you, Negro? And listen, it's not just the dudes won't like it, but ladies not going to like this. So wait. Are you putting the responsibility on me that I picked a loser?
Absolutely. That's right. Your responsibility is on you if you pick the loser. That's absolutely right. And it ain't just that you pick the loser, because sometimes people change up and they come out of their shell late and all that. The responsibility on you is not to keep a loser. Listen, everyone is a CEO of their own life. You are the CEO of your own life. You're looking to fill your board like any CEO. Like Elon Musk, you have a board, okay? You're looking to fill your board with other CEO-minded people. You're looking to have a vice president like President Biden. You're looking for a vice president who, if you're not around, can take over the reins for you. I don't care if you like Biden or his vice president. The point is, when you're the president, your vice president has to be as competent and capable as you. We're dating. If you have a certain standard of living, you got a certain level of house, a certain level of car, a certain level of neighborhood, a certain standard of living, your children go to a certain kind of school, you can't bring into your life, ladies, you can't bring into your life a man who doesn't fulfill the ability to keep you on that level. I'm not saying he has to hold you there. I'm not saying you have to ride his coattails or he has to give that to you. I'm saying if you've established a level of living, you have to bring a partner in who can maintain that with you. Or worst case scenario, in your absence, if you're sick for a while, if you're whatever, your partner has to be able to hold the team together, like any vice president. If you're the president of Tesla, the vice president has to come and run the show while you're on vacation for a month. And a lot of women out here are on social media crying, oh, this guy is wrong and he's this and that and the third. You picked him. And I feel like the reason that they're complaining and crying is because they don't have the mindset. They didn't go into this thinking, I'm going to get a vice president quality man who can run the show in my absence or who can help me maintain this. I think they go into it thinking about romance, about love. He's so handsome. He wrote me a poem from jail. He tells me the sweetest things. He got me a bottle of champagne the first time we were in the club. All these superficial things, and they never get around to the evaluating the quality of person he is and if he can help her to maintain the lifestyle that she determined. You are responsible, ladies. I tell my daughters this. Before you tell me what's wrong with your boyfriend, tell me why you picked him, knowing that these things are wrong with him. It is your responsibility. At least men, we know this. Our mothers and our fathers tell us, yeah, it's your responsibility. Society tells us, yeah, the girl you got, that's your responsibility. Women, with the more power you have, with greater power comes greater responsibility. It is your responsibility, the kind of man that you have in your life, 100%. Now these laws are out here telling y'all that you can make decisions. Guess what? You're responsible for making good decisions. And a lot of women want to make decisions, but they don't want to default to the guy is the problem. That's not okay. A president can't do that. A CEO can't do that. You cannot go to the board meeting and say, yeah, you know what, our stocks are down 25%, but it's really the mailman's fault. You can't do that. Bill in the mailroom, he's got to know why. No, the CEO has to know why. And the CEO has to be coming up with the solutions, not coming up with presenting the solutions because the buck stops with self. The person in the mirror is responsible, right, KR?
Of course.
And then what Michael Jackson said, I'm looking for the man in the mirror. Well, lady, looking for the woman in the mirror too. There is no one to default to. There is no one to point the finger to. No one's coming to save you. We're not in Saudi Arabia. The man isn't responsible to take care of you. You're responsible to take care of yourself. We all have to practice making good decisions all the time. We don't get a break. And when we stop making good decisions, we fail. And we got to be responsible and admit that we're the reason that we're failing. And when we do that, then we can start working on the change that we need to succeed.
Excellent.
And hopefully my book will help people get in that direction. If they buy it, of course, because you said people are going to hate me, so they may not buy it.
That's good, yeah. And you know, for a disclaimer, maybe a future show, once you really have the book really finished and it's going to be published physically, I will have you back on for that book, you know what I'm saying, just to give a little background. You know what I'm saying, not the whole book, but just enough for people to know what they're going to get into.
Absolutely.
Now,
it's all about dating.
Let me see who raised their hand. And I'm going to ask a question off the topic, and then, we could probably close this out. But let me see who this is. Caller, open line, who's this?
Hey, it's me, DB again. I fell off. I wanted to make a statement. First of all, I don't think that the women here want this man to fail in his fails and whatnot. We're older and we're not that silly. We're not that childish, number one. And number two, I was wondering if the guest's wife is helping him or advising him as he's writing the book.
Ms. Gigi, can you repeat number one again before I answer number two? What was number one again?
Oh, number one was the statement that most of the women on T.R.S. are mature women. So we're not kids, and we're not the females that hang out on YouTube or the internet. So I personally wish you well in all of your endeavors, and I'm sure the other ladies do too. Number one.
Okay, I got it. So the women on TRL, they're not dating? Are they in the dating game? Are they looking?
Wait. I'm not saying they're not dating. Some are, some aren't. What I'm saying is we're not wishing you any negative results.
No, it was a joke. I get that, but I did want to ask because you're more familiar. Chaos was just making a joke about people hating me, and that comes with the territory. But do you think that the women in the audience, are they dating?
Some are, some aren't. I'm married, so.
Okay. So my book is for people who are dating, because people who are married, the whole point of this show is to say our opinion on if marriage is forever, and it's not. It's really actually not an opinion. It's a fact. Marriage is not forever. There are a few people who make it through their whole life with one married partner, but those numbers are dwindling fast. There's a very, very few people who have never been divorced. Of the people who are married, 50% are divorced, and then 50% of the people who are one-time divorced, 70% of the people who've been divorced want to get remarried. So that also leads to another 30% of the people who are on their second marriage get divorced. So I'm making a book about dating because I think there's no way to stop people from getting divorced. And I said the reason I don't think you can stop people from getting divorced because women have the power also. Men can choose to get divorced and women can choose to get divorced. There's only two people and both people can pull the trigger. So that's going to lead to a high divorce rate. So it's not forever. But there's something that we can do to minimize either one of the two people pulling the trigger. And my suggestion is to date. Okay. I have these rules about dating. And one rule is to forget romanticism, leave love to the side. It's not as important. To treat your partner with equal respect. So whatever way you want to be respected, you have to treat your partner with that same level of respect. At 3, romance is business, to treat your romance like a business. And the reason I say treat your romance like a business is because of all the systems of doing things in the world, most people understand business because they either have worked or know someone who's working. And business is one of the most successful systems that we know. Of all the systems that we know in the world, business is one of the most successful. So when people say do things like business, everyone knows that means to do it efficiently and do it successfully. So why not treat your romance as if it's one of the most important things in the world and treat it like a business because we want to succeed? That's the point. Okay. Do you mind me asking if your wife is black, African American? Yes, of course. Yes. No question, no problem about that. Yes, my wife is African American. She's actually the only African American between the two of us because I am African Caribbean. So I'm from the Caribbean, even though I'm a U.S. citizen now. But my wife is a natural born U.S. African American. Oh, so
wait. Stop. Hold on. Gigi. Chill. Question to you, Gigi. What made you ask that question?
Because, the truth is he really married up. If he said she's working for NASA.
So there's many ways that I married up. That's just one of the many ways.
I know. And once you said sister, I said, no, he really married up. But anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so what's the other question, Gigi?
Come on, Gary. Oh, I wanted to ask what islands are you from or your people?
I'm originally from Guyana, South America.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful, beautiful. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Gigi. I appreciate all your questions. You're the only person that was willing to ask the question.
People are scared to call in.
No.
I don't know.
It's more than scared. The thing with these subjects, and this is not like a ratchet topic where, people are not talking about black woman this, black men that. If I was focused on the bashing part of the community, I guarantee I would get a few brothers. Wait, I have someone that's calling right now. I'm going to put you on hold. Let me see who this is. All right. Next caller. Who's this?
Mace.
How you doing, Mace? You have a question for my guest tonight?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Oh, guess. What's your name?
Dr. Blaque.
Dr. Blaque?
Yeah.
I'm Mace. So how long you been married?
4 years.
4 years?
But I've been with my wife for 10 years because my book is premised on the point that you should have a long dating process. You should get to know a person for years before you decide to marry them. Especially, you need to have a long engagement where you're living together, acting as if you would when you're married. So traditionally, they used to tell us, don't have sex before marriage, don't live with the person before marriage, and all those things. And all those traditional things might have worked when the woman didn't have any choices, but in today's society where women have lots of choices, I recommend update to our dating is that you need to have a long engagement with someone that you've known for many years, and I did that myself with my wife. I knew her for 6 years before we got engaged. We were engaged for almost 2 years because we were planning the wedding together, and we've been married for 4 years.
Oh, okay. When you say your wife was, when you said she was tucked away and she was home, I didn't understand. What did you mean by that, tucked away?
No, I said some men like to keep, if a man who has a stay-at-home wife would be tucked away. She would be in the home the majority of the time with the children, and she wouldn't be in the workforce where she would be, some men are concerned about other men talking to their wife when they're not around. They're very, some people are jealous, men and women are jealous, and so this is a very common theme that men are concerned about what their wives are doing at work when they're not able to see. But if you have a stay-at-home wife, you don't have to be concerned with that, right? Your wife is at home where you left her. You go out to work and you come home and your wife is exactly where you left her. And so grandma, for example, excuse me, ma'am?
Sounds like she's in prison. There's all that going on. It should be, you say, first of all, you should be friends before you become anything. So if that's
some
your
people
best
do,
friend,
some people
she
don't.
will be your best friend for the rest of your life, not part of your life. And whatever she does when she's not in your sight, you shouldn't be worried. And when she's in your sight, you shouldn't be worried.
That's true, but a lot of people are worried.
If you say you've been married for 4 years, we don't have that problem over here in T.R.S. because we already got our stuff together. We been where you trying to go. First of all.
I appreciate that.
So, and as I was saying,
I've interviewed
have a
people
friend.
like you.
Some people are compatible for a short time, and they was not. I mean, they leave and go find somebody else, and then they're still not happy. Some men have been married about 4 or 5 times. Some women have too. But sometimes it's the freedom that the woman needs to have, just like the man have freedom. She shouldn't be tucked away. She should be the same way she was when you met her, because she's not looking for her father. She wants the freedom to do what she did, even if she's a stay-at-home mother. Is that what you're saying?
I was making an example of grandma. I was saying in the great generation, most women stayed at home. And today, women don't live like that. But in the great generation, in the 1920s and 30s and 40s, women were stay-at-home moms across the board. There were very few women in the workforce in the 1940s. So our grandmothers, my grandmother, maybe even your grandmother, was at home, and she was a stay-at-home mom. And one of the benefits of being a stay-at-home mom, for the man's perspective, was that the woman didn't have any interaction with men that the husband didn't approve of because she was at home. That is different than today's woman who is in the workforce, who is able to be unsupervised. And some men don't like that. So they don't want their woman to go out into the workforce. They want their woman to be at home, even today. I mean, men today, in 2022, there are many men, Chaos can tell you, on other platforms, they talk about it all the time. The manosphere, they talk about having your woman at home, having a stay-at-home wife. They don't want the woman out in the workforce being exposed to other men who may try to many things. But that's their concern. There are jealous people out there. So I was just making a point that's very different.
Well, I think that's the problem. If she was your friend and she was doing what she wanted to do at the time, and then she's going to get locked up in a house, which the mailman come by, the delivery man come by, all men come through while stay-at-home mom is there, and they get to see and talk to people with no problem.
That's very true. That's very true, man. That's very true. But I'm not jealous, so it doesn't cross my mind.
But if you're not a jealous person, your wife can be around the corner somewhere, and she can describe you, and you can walk up and talk to that same person, and they would know who you are. Or either you don't know who she is.
Yes. Oh, yes. My wife could. But my wife works in NASA. She goes to work, and there are men who flirt with her all the time. But I'm not a jealous person, and I expect that because I met my wife in the work environment. So imagine a man who didn't meet their wife in the work environment might be different. But I'm accustomed to seeing my wife deal with men, talk to men. She's a manager. She has people under her. It's okay for me, but everyone isn't me. Everyone doesn't have my experience. So I'm just recognizing. Right. I'm just recognizing other people because I listen to people like yourself who've been married for many years. I listen to a lot of older people for my book. I interviewed them. I talked to them about what got them into being married, what they're looking for. And Chaos has had me on his show. Other people have had me on their show, and I listen to men in those spaces talk about their views. I'm not writing a book just for myself. I'm trying to help people. Hopefully my book will help people. And so I was just recognizing some views other men have that I don't personally have. But it's a very common thing for men in our society to not want their woman to be in a work environment. It's 50-50, I would say, about right now. There are as many men who are okay with it as there are men who are not okay with it. They don't want their woman out there. They're jealous. They talk about it in movies and TV shows all the time.
But I have another question. What do you think about the man that stay at home and the wife is working?
I love it. I am first. I think one of the reasons my wife accepted me as a serious candidate is because I am qualified to both be at home and in the workforce. So when my wife and we both graduated college together at the same time, and I got a job before her, and I went overseas for a month, and then when I came back, my wife had started her job, and this was right after college. And one day, her new job, I was visiting with her. We weren't married; we were just friends at the time. And she was tired, and I was just there hanging out. And she said, "I'm gonna take a nap, and I'm gonna wake up and cook dinner." Now I was at the house chilling. She was working all day. She was tired, and I was, babysitting for her a little bit. And she wakes up, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, what time is it?" And I was like, "It's 9:48." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, why didn't you wake me up and let me cook dinner? And where's my baby?" And I said, "First of all, calm down. Your dinner's in the microwave. I already cooked dinner, and I already made sure baby is bathed and in the bed, and she should be about to fall asleep, but you can go in and tuck her in if you'd like." And I think that was the first time my wife took me seriously as a potential candidate because she saw that not only could I work, but I could also manage a home, stay home with the baby, make sure the baby's washed and cleaned and fed, and I can cook and clean myself. So all men aren't like that, but, everyone's different. Maybe a person doesn't find those skills valuable, but if there's a woman who, and we pose this question, Dave Chappelle made a big joke about it on his show, would you date Oprah? So imagine being a guy, and if Oprah was interested, we know she's not, but let's just say you had the opportunity to date Oprah, would you date Oprah? This is a big question. And, a woman who's that successful and who has that much charisma and drive and abilities, you can't approach her with, hey, I'm the man, and you got to stay home and watch the kids. You got to approach her with all right, I'm the man, and I'm going to stay home and watch your kids, Oprah, because you're the whole billionaire, right? So it depends on what kind of woman you have in your life and what kind of woman you want to date. I could do either or. I could work, or I could, be at home with the kids, even though I
have
prefer.
an uncle, he's married 70 years, and he said you always need a helpmate. You know what that is?
He's right. Absolutely.
Helpmate.
Yes, I do.
So a helpmate can help
word.
you fall down, or you can help the helpmate when they fall down. But if you got a man want a woman to stay in the house, don't want to go nowhere, or he thinks he got to be controlled just because he's a man of the house, and got to tell her when to eat.
A lot of men like that.
How big she got to be, and how small she got to be. Now, those are the men that's going to dislike you that's on TRS. Because you got it through.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
It was nice having a chat with you.
It was a nice. Thank you for calling. I appreciate the question.
You know that
I hope I answered your question.
I'm glad that you know a man should share with the children, not the woman do it alone.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're different. And most women think like that now. So if I thought differently, I would be in trouble, because the women of today, the women that are dating age, don't think that they have to stay home with the children. So if I didn't understand that, I would be setting myself up for failure. Well, it would be very hard to find a woman.
Well, your book would be for a married man that's in here. That must be who you're talking to, because we're
my book is for people who are dating.
Sell your book to.
Hopefully.
Yeah, he needs some help real bad.
All right, thank you, mate. Thank you, May.
Have a good
Thank you, May. Thank you. Bless your heart. God damn it. God damn it. Boy, I tell you,
she's
ladies,
coming for you, bro. She's coming for you.
Listen. I'm glad the ladies called in. I know the dudes were going to call into this, because, let's be honest, this subject was really focused on both men and women, personally, because, let's be honest, fellas, you're hoping that you get married to said woman, and this is going to be forever. But we all know, not only from the data, but what we see in the 21st century now, not from the last century, but this new century, that is not the case. They sold you a lie, gentlemen.
It's a lie.
And ladies. And the lie goes further than the truth, unfortunately. Very unfortunate.
Sure does.
So now my only question, and this will be probably the last question. What is your views of Roe v. versus Wade? This is off topic.
Wow. Well, I guess it's pretty obvious. I am a supporter of Roe because I don't. It's a two-part thing. One, I think women should choose if they have an abortion. I don't think that you should say to them they can't make that choice. And two, because I think women should choose if they can have an abortion, I don't understand why conservatives feel that they have to prevent it. If you want to choose, if you don't want to have an abortion, you don't have to have an abortion. But I can't understand for the life of me why conservatives have to prevent other people from making a different choice. This is America. It's supposed to be the land of the free. And the conservatives are always land of the free until they disagree with you. So it's only land of the free if you agree with the conservatives. Because it's a simple thing. Every choice should be available unless it's hurting another person. And it doesn't hurt anyone else other than the woman who's putting her life at risk to bring the baby into this world to not have the baby. Now you're like, all right, let's keep the baby. And let's just give conservatives the benefit of the doubt and say, all right, boom, you force every woman to have a baby. She gets pregnant, she has to have the baby. The idiocy of conservatives, the disrespect, and I mean they're disrespecting us by saying that you have to have a baby, and they don't have a plan for the baby. There are over 700,000, there are almost 1 million orphans in the United States today. Conservatives or pro-life people who support pro-life, would have a halfway argument if there were no orphans. if no child was left behind, pun intended, if there was actually a system that protected children who were born into families of unwanted parents. But that's not a thing. The United States doesn't do a great job of taking care of unwanted children. Children aren't living the life in the richest country in the world and having a blast if their parents don't want it. Adoption isn't at an all-time high. So when you say we're taking away Roe versus Wade and every woman has to have the baby, you're not being an intelligent person. You're not being a mature adult because you haven't followed up with the next step. What would you do with these children? There are no plans for the children. You're just saying have them. And so those children could end up on the street. They could end up sex trafficked like many children are already. If you watch an episode of SVU, Law and Order SVU, you'll know. There's no plan for the children. The people who claim to support pro-life are not pro-life. They're a bunch of idiots who want to force women to have children, but no plan to take care of the children. And that makes absolutely no sense. If you say we have to have children, fine. I would remotely support it. I would accept a plan that does the best for those children who the women don't want their children. But that's not the case because conservatives don't do the whole thinking things through all the way. They don't make laws and worry about actually getting to a solution. They just want to act as if the world is ending when someone disagrees with them. And here we are about to lose a crucial right that really doesn't bother anybody. I don't care if you don't have a child. I don't care if you have an abortion. It is irrelevant to me. Why? Because you didn't ask me to get pregnant. I'm not going to help you pay for the child once the baby comes out, unless now I will, because the baby's going to get on welfare, and then I'm going to have to use my tax dollars. So Roe versus Wade, removing it, forcing children into this world, forcing women to have children that they don't want is really dumb. Not to mention the people who are going to die, literally die, because they can't get an abortion because the baby is risking their life. So it's more important for the mother to die trying to have a baby, and we know the mother's going to die. It's more important for her to die than it is to just let the baby, who it's up to the mother to raise anyway, go in peace. It's always been nonsense. The pro-life position has always been stupid. The only reasonable position is pro-choice. You don't want to have an abortion, don't. I don't want to have an abortion, I won't have one. I might be a devout Catholic, blah, 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 blah. I don't want an abortion, I don't have one. If you go over there and you have one healthy, legally, in a hospital where you should, I don't agree, but that's your right, more power to it. Pro-choice, the only sensible option of the two.
Excellent. I'll chime in and I'll give a solution in regards to Roe v. Wade, which by June we'll know more if it's really overturned. And I see you, caller. I'm gonna take your call in a second, but let me give my take on this. If they're gonna roll back the abortion laws, or what they call child deletions, because I'm not sure what is issue saying the word abortion. I don't know what it is, but that's another story. That if you're going to roll back, the simple solution is this. Because I know a lot of women have abused it. And the funny thing about them, I hear this talk about, well, people are getting, touch, a.k.a., rape, and having children. But when we look at the actual data, and we're going to go by data for this one, is that it's not even 30%. It's like less than 5%. So when I hear ladies pushing back on it, it's nonsense. And I hear a lot of dudes getting their feelings because it tells you, ladies and gentlemen, especially you ladies, listen closely, if a dude doesn't have a problem or has a problem, they're rolling back. You're dealing with a man that's known to be shooting up the club and don't want no responsibility. Because he's probably known to be paying a few women that he knocked up intentionally or whatever, and he has to go pay for it to get rid of it. So I think this move, Paco, as much time people want to like or not, I think is a good direction, and let the states handle how people want to deal with deleting babies. And I know certain states will, I think in Minnesota or one state, I don't know the other state, said we'll do it regardless of the overturn of it. And it's going to make people be more selective. It's going to make people be more selective, more smarter with their reproductive self, regardless you're dealing with a man that either strapping her or not. And even if you strap her, you still going to be taking that risk because sex is a procreation act. I'm not sure why people get comfortable like this is not no procreation act.
But hold on, bro. Hold on.
Okay.
How is this a good thing if people can't have an abortion? I understand you say that you think they shouldn't, but I don't understand how it helps. How does it help anyone to force people to have babies that they don't want? I missed that part.
Okay. Well, I'll give a better selection. I'll give a solution to that. If you, as a woman, are concerned about you want that option to delete a child, the rules should be played out like this. Since they now overturned this, they should put some in place where it said for you to go and delete a baby, one of the things you has to go through. One, it should only be limited to maybe, and I'll give it be nice too. But if you have more kids and you just, you don't want to, I guess, tie your tubes or the dude don't want to get a vasectomy, whatever you want to call it, then, maybe they should, the institutions will have to make you make a choice. You get me? Now, why I say it's a good thing, because I've noticed people are abusing with any rights or privilege. It's put in place so that way you don't sit there and then all of a sudden you feel something's wrong, you have to get there and go get the baby flushed out. Now,
but why does that bother you? I'm confused on why do you care if a random person there's 320 million people in the United States, 180 million of them are women. Why do you care if one of those women that you don't know, I'm not talking about anyone you've ever met, someone you've never met, someone in New Mexico is having, how does that hurt chaos? How does that affect you in your day-to-day life? That you would want to stop her from having an abortion. When she has the baby or she doesn't have the baby, how does that affect you?
Well, to me, because I'm not pregnating these ladies, saying I don't want to be hearing the stories. In my pocket, I'd be around some women that tell me stories. And trust me, you drop your tongues. Somehow this they make when they decide to go out the way. I know one woman particularly. She told me, and I thought she was lying, that she went and deleted a baby before the baby was about to be delivered. Now I know you could do that. They say it's illegal, but you could do it. So at times, from me hearing these stories alone, I had to think differently. Now I'm not saying that you don't have the right to do so. You could do so your free will, but because it was put in place for a reason. And my reason why they put it in place because they're trying to control numbers of people. And really, that has not really been much effective because population still grew. And only a certain set of people are going to keep their population numbers. So it makes sense why they overturn because they want to keep up, nor do they keep importing people. So that's why I have my views on it personally.
I think you're right. I think it's more about population control, but the population is going down. There has been for the birth rate, not the population. The birth rate in the United States has been going down for the last 20 years, and it's going to continue to go down because women are working 30 more women are having less 30 or more years. Women are working more. They're having less children. All of us are having less children. When you and I were born, it used to be 2.5, or in the 1950s, it used to be 2.5 children per family. Now it's like 1.3 or less. So everyone's not having kids, and it's okay. So I think that's a smart thing for the government to force people to have kids. But at the same time, I wouldn't support it. I think that if you got pregnant, whoever the hell you are out there, I don't know who you are, if you're getting pregnant, and you don't want the baby, oh well. And you know what? Abortions affect your health. The medical science is out. The doctors will tell you that you can't keep having abortions and put your life at risk. You could die. You can hemorrhage. Blah blah blah. On and on and on. There's a risk to it. But that's your choice because we don't stop women from having people. We don't stop anybody from having suicide any other way. We don't tell people that you can't daggone drink yourself to death. No one's going back to abolition where we can't have alcohol and people drink themselves to death all the time. So I think that if you're focused on hurting yourself only, I don't like the idea, but I don't think you should take it away. It doesn't benefit society to take that right away. People should have a healthy abortion, and that there should be term limits, of course. I'm pretty sure in the United States,
and that will be,
you can't have an abortion. Yeah, you can't have an abortion in the last trimester in the United States. You have to go to Mexico to have an abortion after the last trimester. So, that's reasonable. If the medical science says it's too risky and the baby is feeling and so on and so forth, and we're not going to perform the abortion in the last trimester, that's reasonable. And if that's not the law in every state, I'm pretty sure it's the law in most states. So, hey, don't have an abortion in the last trimester. But to say we can't have any abortions, and you said is only a few, less than 30% of people have been raped. If it's less than 30%, how many millions of women are there? I don't want any woman who's been raped. I don't want any woman who's been raped to be forced to have a baby. If she wants to keep it, great. That's her business. She's the one that's going to take care of it. If she doesn't want to keep it, great. I don't care. I didn't rape her. I don't want her to be living that life. I can imagine having to take care of a child who was forced into me. I'm a man, and I can imagine how horrible that is. And we're telling a woman that's just not just the act of it's not just the act of giving birth. It's the process. The baby is not going to go away after one day. You have to breastfeed it, or you have to give it formula. You have to take it to get shot. It's a whole human being. You have to raise it. You got to put it in school. If you don't put it in school and you're in a certain state, they're going to arrest you because your child's not in school. I mean, it's a whole thing. It's decades-long process. I don't want to force anybody into that. I admit, disclaimer, I don't like kids, except for my own, more or less. I'm not the guy that's hanging out with kids, so I wouldn't want kids anyway. But I don't see how it helps to force women to have children that they don't want. There's too many people who do want kids. There are people out there having kids that they do want. We don't need to force people who don't want them. There's enough. The country is full, 320 million and growing. We don't need a lot more kids. We need more kids, but not a lot. We don't need to force people to have
one thing, in future reference, we call it deletions. We'll try to change the language. But one thing, the United States keep importing people anyway. So if they're concerned about repopulating a certain set of color people, i.e., non-white people,
non-Africans.
Yeah. Then I will understand their claim why I do that. But anyway, let me take this one call. Hello, caller, open line. Who's this? Caller?
Hello, sir. This is Miller. I am familiar with Dr. Blaque in a sense. I just have
your
a
name is
question
Anthony
for
Miller?
him.
Anthony Miller? That's your name?
No, sir. I'm gonna just go by Miller. Dr.
All right,
Blaque.
Nephew, I knew that was you the moment you called in.
What up, Unc? What up, Unc? You feel me?
What's going on?
I had to show nothing much, sir. I'm doing good. I just had to show my support for your channel, and I'll definitely be tuning in a lot more often. Just send me the link, and I'll listen to every single thing you got to say, because I respect everything you say, and I take in everything you say, and I'm like a sponge. I absorb some of the knowledge that you say. Some of the things you say might be a disagreement, but I absorb the knowledge that you got to tell me, and I listen. So with that being said,
first of all, there's nothing wrong with disagreeing. We got to all learn how to disagree without being disagreeable. And if you're young enough to date, you're dating right now, you got to be able to disagree with your partner. You're not going to agree on everything. So you got to know how to disagree. So I don't hold it against people. Chaos and I do not hold it against people disagreeing. It's all about how you disagree. And if you have good reasons is what matters. Like, we disagree, Chaos and I disagree on he's pro-choice, I'm pro-life. We disagree, but we're not disagreeable. So we got to learn how to talk to each other from different sides. And really, when you disagree, I don't know if anyone told you this, but you're going to learn more from people you disagree with than people you agree with. So there's a benefit in disagreeing. You just got to make sure you bring that benefit. You got to have something intelligent to offer in your disagreement. And that's where we learn, and we all need to learn. We appreciate you supporting, listening in. And this is Chaos Channel, Chaos Reign. This is his channel. I'm just a guest being interviewed, and I'd like to thank you, Chaos, for interviewing me on your channel. Do you have a question, nephew?
Yes, sir, I do have a question. So I was playing a game yesterday, and I was speaking to someone online, and he told me, he said, I'm a stay-at-home dad. He said, my wife has 2 jobs. She likes to work. And I asked him, why don't you work and you know, be the man of the house and provide and da-da-da-da. And he said, my wife, she likes working, so I can't stop her hustle. I can't stop her grind. I'm a stay-at-home dad. We got 2 kids, and I take care of my kids, and I'm a stay-at-home dad. Like, just the opposite of a stay-at-home mom, the same thing, just dad. So I want to know, really, both of y'all view. I'm interested to see what your take is. So I want to hear what you have to say about just being a stay-at-home dad and that realm of ramification, if you will.
I think that's a question for you, Paco. If you're there, Paco, you're muted. So, you know.
All right. So that's a good question. And one other guest asked me a similar question. So my position is that you get to choose your partner. First, you got to know what's best for yourself. And then you're going to go out there and find a partner who's compatible with what you think is best for yourself. And you're going to seek to provide your partner. If you guys are compatible, you will be good for your partner in a way that they're also good for you. You guys are assets to each other. If you run into a situation where you're going to run into many situations where you're working on things that you didn't necessarily envision, you're dealing with the issue as it comes up, like, all right, we have kids. One of you happens to be the woman, has the better education, has the better job opportunity, and while the children are preschool age, the man will stay home with the children. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just common sense. Like, the opposite would be that you say, I'm the man, I go to work, and you stay home, and we lose that money. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because I'm all about my money. You know what I'm saying? So my wife works for NASA. If we had a baby and one of us had to stay home with the kids, it would be me. Now, when I'm overseas, I make a lot of money, but when I'm in the States, my wife is doing her thing. She has big bank. And so big bank take little bank. And my little bank will be at home with the kids while her big bank is out there launching the next space mission. It is what it is. That position that I've taken comes from an understanding of both people being equal, and there's not the man of the house. The man of the house to me is a generic term, because do women lead with I'm the woman of the house? When a woman says she's a woman of the house, it's not like a title. It's not like a imperial decree or anything. She's making the point of who is the lead woman, but she doesn't mean she runs the whole house. And so the man of the house, I could be the man of the house. I'm currently the man of the house. My name is on the mortgage, but that doesn't mean I dictate in the home. It doesn't mean that I force the women in the house to do what I say or anything like that, like granddad might have done or great-granddad might have done. So your friend who is a stay-at-home dad, he's not less of a man. There's no diminishing his greatness or what he brings to the table because he's a man doing a traditional female role. He's doing what works for him and his wife, and he should be respected for that. And if it's working for him, it's working for him. The only issue is if it's not working. But it sounds like it's working, and we should be proud of him. I had a friend in the military who was a single dad. He wasn't a stay-at-home dad, but he was a single dad. One of the funniest things I remember in my first year being in the military, he got called into duty unexpectedly, and she had to be like 2 years old. He just dropped his daughter off in my barracks of all places, because he had an emergency. He didn't have a babysitter in time, but he was a whole single dad. No mother at all, just him. Shout out to my boy Dukes. So men do the things that need to be done to take care of children, and they shouldn't be looked any funny way, no more than a woman who is a full-time professional should be looked at funny. We all, if you believe in equality, feminism is a philosophy of the equality of the genders, gender equality. If we really believe that, I believe that, then I don't care if you're a man staying home with the kids or a woman. All I care is that you get respect and you give respect. To me, it's about respect. It's not about what's done traditionally, because guess what? In the traditional way, we all make more money than they did in the past. Grandma and grandpa wasn't making money like we make today. So they can keep their old tradition because I want to keep my money. You feel me?
Yes, sir. I feel you. Okay, so in that sense, in that sense, does okay, so a little, I guess, personal note. So my mom and dad, my dad, he had a heart attack. So my dad was unable to work. Now, my mom, of course, she worked. She was the breadwinner at that time. And my dad didn't go to work for a little minute. So, and it was stressing her out. So my question to you is, what toll does that take on a marriage to where she comes home, she's stressed out because she has to work. She has to work. She has no choice. She can't stay at home because, the lights going to get turned off and stuff like that. I'm not trying to put my dad on the spot, but, because he did have a serious, and he had a triple bypass surgery. So he had a heart attack. They cut his stomach open and all that. They cut his chest open, all that. So what toll does that take? I want to hear your take because I've seen it firsthand, but I want to know what your take is on someone who is a man of the house. And I know you said there is no man of the house. Okay, let's just say he's the man and he's in the house. What is your take on that and the woman getting stressed out because she has to go to work?
So that is a more of a psychological question, and you can't speak for all people. Some women will get more stressed out, some women won't. If you're talking about specifically your mother and your father because you saw that, your testimony is accurate because you were there. I understand if you say, yeah, my mom was stressed out because she had to work, and my dad, I can imagine your father was feeling stressed himself, feeling, slightly inadequate because he wanted to, okay, and he probably wants to get out there and make make a living the way he understands and the way he envisions for himself, but his health won't let him. And a lot of men face that. Think about athletes. When their career is over, they don't want to stop playing their favorite sport and doing what they love to do. They have to because they can only do it for a limited time. And so I imagine your father is dealing with it the way an athlete is. It's like, I'm not incompetent. I just can't do this, what I was doing any longer, and I have to adjust my mind. And it takes time, maybe years, to get into that mindset of, man, I'm different. It's not what I imagined. But think about it. We all face those problems in life. We all have dreams, aspirations that are not fulfilled. That's part of being human, that we wanted to, let's say, we wanted to go to college when we were 18, and we didn't get a chance to go to college when we were 18, and we don't get a chance to go until we're 30 when we get out the military. Or we wanted to get this degree in college, but we aren't good at that degree field. We just knew we were going to be a doctor. But when we get into that doctorate program, you know what? Medical doctor was way harder than we thought. We don't have all day. We don't have unlimited money, so we end up being a veterinarian or something. That's an adjustment. People deal with that. That's a real thing. And sometimes it hurts. Probably it hurts every time. And so I imagine your father, is adjusting to that hurt. But as long as you have pain lets you know that you're alive. And so the strong people are able to deal with that pain and appreciate being alive, because the alternative is not feeling pain. And when you stop feeling pain, you're not alive anymore. And so a lot of people look at that and say, pain sucks, but the alternative is worse. And I think the people who get over it, who work through it, kind of get to that point. And I'm sure your father has gotten that point where he's like, things don't work out perfectly, but, I'm dealing with the best I can. And your mom, stressed out, being in the work field, work environment, she's dealing with the best she can. And they got you, and you're going to help them. So that's really all you can say. You can't really say anything else about what people are thinking in their minds. But we really appreciate your call, man. It's about time for the show to end. So thanks for calling in, nephew. We'll talk about it more some other time.
Oh, absolutely. If you send me the link, again, I definitely tune in every time. Again, I'm like a sponge. I take in what you say, and I heard your take, and I appreciate you accepting my call and listening to what I have to say. And I just want to thank Mr. Chaos and you for what all y'all are doing, not only on the channel but outside of the channel as well.
All right, thank you. Thank you for calling, and don't be a stranger, and subscribe to Chaos Rain channel if you can, brother. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, Park. Wait, Park. Before I end the show, let me see who this is. One last person that raised their hand. Who's this that raised their hand?
Hey, Chaos. This is Ken.
You have a question for Dr. Blaque?
Yeah, I was listening to the show. Great show. Okay, so my understanding, brother, you've been married for 4 years, and you were with your wife before you got married for how long? You said 10 years?
Yeah, 6 years. 6 years before, so altogether 10 years. Yeah.
Okay, 10 years altogether. Okay. So, and you wrote your book after 4 years of marriage. So I have two questions.
No, I've been working on my book before I got married. It's not complete yet, but I've been working on it for a while. I'm just in the getting it to publishing phase. So, but I've been working on it since I've been dating. I've been working on it since I was trying to figure it out for myself. And I realized that the things that my father was telling me about, my father when I was in high school was like, yeah, you got to settle down and get married. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to work for me. I've been thinking about it for many years, and I realized that the views of the baby boomers, the generation before mine, the baby boomers, they're obsolete. How people got into dating in the 1960s and 70s and 80s, it won't work today. I don't care who you are. If your mindset is from the 1980s and you're trying to get married today to a person in society today, you're going to fail because it's obsolete to think that women are just going to follow the man's lead in a man's world and a man's home and do whatever he says and give him her paycheck and all these things that were pretty standard back in the day. They're just not going to work. So my book is about updating dating, how we think about getting into relationships. What can we do before we get married, to the point of this show? What can we do before we get married in order to give our marriage the best chance? Because there's nothing you could do once you get married that you're not already doing before. But you cannot guarantee that you're going to stay together. The best you can do is the things ahead of time. It's like having a car. You don't know the day that your car is going to stop working, but you're going to do all those little oil changes and give the extra quality oil as the engine gets older for the extra miles. And you're going to do the little things because you're going to take as good care of it before, or it's just going to crap on you even sooner. And that's my idea.
All right. Okay. Thanks, bro. Great show, Chaos.
Thank you.
Bro, did you have a question, though, brother? Did you have a question? I mean, I was just elaborating on my position, but if you had a question specifically, I could answer that for you.
Oh, well, I know you guys are about to close it out. I was under the assumption that that you've been married for 4 years, and I heard what you said, and I actually agree with what you said. That I tell my kids, you don't really know a person until you actually live with them. You do not know them until you live with them. So I was wondering, what prompted you to write the book, but you kind of answered that question. And then it was, and what have you learned? Is there in your opinion a difference between, you being with your wife as married and because I do tend to notice that even still sometimes when people are living together and they get married for some reason, it seems like they, I don't know if it's just because now there's that legal commitment there that, it seems like there's, I don't know. But so my question, I guess, is, have you, in your book, have you noticed like any kind of deviations or whatever, like the differences between being with your wife before you guys, made it legal and the 4 years you guys have been legally married?
So thankfully my wife was honest, very honest, and we had years to hash it out. I think if you don't give them that time, if you don't give your relationship that time, you won't be able to answer the questions. I don't think you could cheat it. I don't think you could just, what people seem to do from my research is they just get a feeling. They're like, this is the right time. I feel it. That is one way to do it. That's the traditional way of doing it, but that's not giving yourself a good chance for success. I think that you have to get in there and live with that person and observe for the years of observation. It would be like if we're trying to study an animal in its natural habitat, right? If you and I were the first people to Tasmania, Australia, and we just found the Tasmanian devil, we couldn't just look at it for, a month or two and say, all right, we got this animal figured out, let's move on. Because it takes years to understand an animal in its natural environment, and human beings are the most complicated, complex animals discovered so far. So we have to observe our partners in their natural habitat. We got to go meet their family multiple times. We got to sit down and just be quiet and watch how they talk to their children, or how they go about. This is a big one. How do they go about their own day? Do they need someone to wake them up to get ready for work? Do they need someone to push them out the door? Do they need someone to tell them how important it is to study for that test so they can get that, that promotion? Those things are self-starter things. There's nothing you can do, right? You can't make them be motivated to take care of themselves, but you can observe and see it with your eyes open and a conscious, sober mind to say, is this the kind of person that I want to hitch my wagon to? Like I keep saying, marriage isn't forever, and you can't guarantee anything in a marriage. But what you can do is be prepared. You can be prepared. In business, we have something called, we evaluate, all the problems that we try to evaluate problems beforehand. We try to prepare ourselves based on that business environment. If you're inspired, thank you. That phrase has been slipping my mind all night. Thank you. So, we try to evaluate whether it be finance or banking, or if we're looking at, health, crypto, or we're looking at many other fields that we're trying to say what could happen. Let's just talk about the stock market. If you have a company that's in the stock market, what could happen? Imagine the people in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are losing their stuff right now because they're trying to figure out where is this market going to go, and everyone's trying to figure out where the market going to go. Well, that's your romance. That's your relationship. You got to be in it for years to figure out where it goes before you say I do, because once you say I do, getting out of it is going to cost you a lot more.
Right.
You're going to pay a cost no matter what. There's a price to pay, be it time, be it literal money, be it the relationship you have, how the children are going to respond to you leaving. There's always a cost. But the only thing I can say is minimize the cost by understanding your environment before you put that final I do in there, because that automatically increases the cost you pay. What the old players used to say, it's cheaper to keep her. And this is for the ladies too. It's cheaper to keep him, because that divorce is not cheap. That divorce is not. How many people know that being divorced dings your credit score? So if you had good credit, the moment you get divorced, you're gonna lose like 100 points, because you two were being rated as two incomes. Now you're being rated as one income. Automatically, your debt to income ratio has increased. You're more risky of a credit. You're more of a credit risk now. That matters. That matters, especially let's say you're doing a business where your credit is dependent on your ability to buy things with credit. You got divorced, you just messed up your business. So to answer the original question, is marriage forever? No. But I don't think marriage has to be forever either. I think that's unreasonable. Nothing is forever. But what is reasonable is understanding your partner, understanding first yourself. Why are you even getting married? What we say in business, what's your why? Why are you even getting married? If you're getting married so that you can have someone to put a roof over your head, you're going to be divorced and you're going to have no roof over your head, because no one is put on earth to put a roof over your head. That's not someone else's job. But if you're getting married because you found a person who's an asset to you and who you can be an asset to, that's a reason to risk it all. Not that it's guaranteed to succeed, but at least you're headed in the right direction. I am an asset to you. You're an asset to me. Let's join like Sprint and T-Mobile and be bigger assets together. A lot of people don't like me making this business analogy, but no one can argue that the business analogy is most widely understood. If someone has a better analogy or a better idea to follow, I'm waiting to hear. I haven't heard it yet, because the leading concept is romance. Marry because you love the person, date because you love the person, and we know that's not working. So to me, it's either romance or business, and business works. Business makes us all be more vigilant, more efficient, more level-headed. So I like modeling my concept after business for those reasons. And until I find a better model, I'm sticking with the business model. But what I've learned from being married is that I benefited a lot from getting to know my wife for many years before. We were friends. We were colleagues in college. We graduated together. We were best friends. And now we're best friends who are married. And I know very few people, I don't know maybe but one or two other couples who did all that, especially in that order. Some people were best friends, got married, and then went to college together, and then had a job, and then they learned all these things about each other in those environments, and they're married today, but they wish they had learned some of those things before. Thankfully, my wife and I did the step-by-step. We grew together before we decided that we're not just attracted to each other. We're not just good teammates. We don't just have similar views, but we also are compatible on multiple levels, and the more levels you're compatible on, it's like a net, right? A woven net. The more you're woven together, the stronger your marriage will be. The less you're interwoven, the weaker your marriage will be. And then it only takes one of you to pull that whole marriage apart and file for divorce.
All right. Thank you, Kenneth, for all your questions.
Great question. Thank you, caller.
All right. Well, Dr. Blaque, anywhere people could follow you or, reach to you or whatever, the floor is yours.
So I appreciate that. I'm on TikTok at Dr. Blaque. I'm on Instagram at Dr. Blaque. I'm on Twitter at Dr. Blaque. I'm on Facebook at Paco Abrigo. I'm sure you'll see that. I'm on YouTube at Dr. Blaque. That's DRBLAQUE. So you guys can find me all over social media. I'm trying to grow my TikTok. I can do live now. Chaos, when you get your TikTok up, man, we need to do a live. We can do some lives now and have this conversation. I think a lot of people are dating now, and a lot of people are asking themselves, why are they even dating? Especially women I've talked to and interviewed about this. They don't even know why they're dating, or they're not dating anymore because they can't think of a reason why. So I think that if we could put this my business philosophy out there and say you're dating because you're looking for an asset, because everyone understands asset. Asset is something that puts value in your pocket, puts value into you. If people could understand that their whole purpose is to find someone who's going to bring value to their life, which when you put it that way sounds so simple, but people just miss that. And romance is not going to make you think that way. But if you think about having value in your life, you could really get out there and date with a purpose. And you could also stop yourself from dating people who are wasting your time with a purpose too, because too many people are giving people an extra chance that they shouldn't get. So I'm all over social media, and I'd love to talk to any of you. Hit me up, ask a question, comment on my videos. You can make a video request if you have a question. I can make a video specifically to your question on TikTok or Instagram.
My issues with TikTok personally, and I do have one account or two accounts. I can't remember. I never upload anything on TikTok yet. That it's creating more of a short attention span that people already have a hard time maintaining. If I'm going to use it, maybe I'll put some boring stuff on it and maybe people watch it. But really, truly, when I started seeing the growth of TikTok, rather personal gain or where people just want, gain following, which that's what all social media is really designed for, is that I look at what product you're putting out. Yes, it makes you smile a little bit, maybe laugh a little bit, but we got so many of that already on social media. And the time span, it goes under 5 seconds. I said this person, I forgot to give the ultimate disclaimer from Chaos Reign. The normal attention span of the human being is under 5 seconds. That is no good. You cannot absorb or retain any information under the 5-second threshold. So, as always, the mission of Chaos Reign, I'm here to raise your attention span. I want to break that 5-second threshold the average human is now upon. Because God knows your attention span goes beyond 5 seconds on entertainment, foolishness, sports, etc. So you could do it. Men and women, it's not hard. So
yeah, bro, and the way you could do that on TikTok is if you do lives. Now you have to have over, I think you have to have over 1,000 followers in order to qualify for a live, but the live is unlimited. It's just like we can have this whole show on TikTok live. There are people who are doing it now. I follow a couple of, not follow, I've come across a couple of lives that are pure nonsense. I mean, there's a lot of it, but it's not 5 seconds. We can have this interview. We can have any interview we can have. We can talk for an extended period of time. And like any live, people will comment live and say, or we could bring them in and give them some time to ask a question, just like the radio that you're doing now, but it's live. We could see them. So it's worth it for you with an established platform to get on TikTok and get more viewers. And, we gotta meet the people where they are. Yes, we want to expand their attention time beyond 5 minutes, but we do want to meet the people where they are. And right now, they're on TikTok, and I'd love to talk to them, and I'd love to have you with me as we engage them.
Yeah. Well, like always, I have to start throwing some content on a TikTok, and like I said, I have one account that I'm probably gonna do something separate. I'm still trying to think of what I'm gonna do, because personally, to grow 1,000, because hell, I haven't got 1,000 on my channel yet, and what I do on here is totally different from over there. It might be different, but like I said, how I carry myself on one platform, it is going to be the same or lesser. So, but I'll think about it. But thank you, Paco, for coming by. And like always, there's going to be many more subjects to come that comes out of my cranium that we could discuss. But I tell you one thing: a lot of people did tune in and listen in, because I see the call lines is somewhat very plentiful enough, and people raise their hands. So I guess they enjoyed this conversation at hand, which I'm happy.
We're getting better at this, bro. At least I am getting better working with you. Yeah. We're getting better.
And a future reference, Paco, one lady said that there was background, but don't worry, you get better as we go. I didn't want to interrupt it, but just give me a little disclaimer. Could they hear it? So remember, these mics are they're very sensitive. So, but like I said, we work it out.
To the audience.
Work it out. All right, Paco, we'll take care. And we'll talk later. All right.
All right, and have a good night.
One thing, I will send you for this stream. All right. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Take care. Thank you.
All right. Take care. And I'd like to thank everybody for listening to today's broadcast. And like always, if you're new to the Chaos Reign channel, you know what to do. You hit that red button, that button that says subscribe. It says subscribe. Yes, hit that. Then you hit the top bell, not the middle, not the lower. You don't get nothing from that. The top bell is where the game is at. And with the top bell, you will get the uploads and live streams on the Chaos Reign channel. So subscribe today. Also, follow me on Twitter at ChaosReign7. And now you can add me as a friend on Facebook, Eric Reign on Facebook. Those are on the YouTube channel, and I probably you'll find it in the About section as well on Chaos Reign channel. Oh, and I also have a Discord server too, so hit me up on Discord. And that's all the links. So, like always, thank you for listening to tonight's broadcast. Until next time, take care and good night.